Well, we're back with another S4K Talks, and I'm Candy Olant, and today we have Brandon Saho. Brandon is a former sports reporter. He is the creator of the podcast, The Mental Game. You can see it right there behind him. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend you do. It's fantastic. He's got lots of great athletes and musicians and entertainers that he's brought on to just really talk about mental health and break the stigma around support for mental health. So, Brandon, it is awesome to have you here. So glad.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about mental health and everything that S4K's doing. I'm really happy that we're able to team up on this.
Yeah, us too, for sure. So we're gonna dive right in. So, at S4K, we're all about helping kids be their best selves, to overcome bullying, to build emotional intelligence. And you have had quite a journey of your own with your mental health and building your emotional intelligence and your resilience. And you've been really open about, as a 14-year-old, starting to realize that there was something going on with your struggles.
Yeah, I didn't talk about it then, but now looking back, now the work that I do, speaking about mental health all the time and hosting a podcast that's all about mental health, I felt like it was important to talk about that in my journey, that it started when I was 14, when I was a freshman in high school, and no one really knew. And I hid it until I was 28 years old, which is 14, almost 15 years. It's really sad looking back on it, but I tell it now because I don't want any kid to struggle like I did. I had sent a picture to a girl and she sent it to the whole school, and it was like the most horrific, traumatizing thing in my life. And it still affects me to this day, that moment when I was a kid. And so I know how they feel when something goes wrong. And now there's Snapchat and TikTok and every social media platform you can imagine where bullying happens, or a picture can get sent somewhere, or something embarrassing can be put online forever. And so I just try to tell kids it's not the end of the world. Like, it does feel like it in that moment, but look at me. I was able to live past that moment and achieve my dreams. So like, I don't want any kid out there watching or listening to feel like it's not possible. It is not the end of the world. But for me, yeah, it started when I was 14 and no one talked about it back then. And so, yeah, I want to try to break the stigma the best I can.
Yeah. Wow. That must have. So that's just so brutal to think that, kids would do that to each other, but it happens every single day. I've got family members that it's happened to.
Yep.
And it's really hard to overcome and work through. And did you know right away, I'm sure you were horrified that this had happened. And what was the ripple effect over the next couple of years for you? And did anybody see how traumatized you were and reach out to try to help you?
Yeah, I mean, I had two friends that were there for me. They didn't ask what was going on or how I was feeling or if I was depressed or anxious. We didn't know what any of those words meant. But when no one else sat with me at lunch or invited me to go to the football games anymore, they were the ones that helped me and just were my friends. Teachers knew what was going on, I'm sure. Everyone in the school did. Friends did. But like, this was 2007. We didn't talk about mental health at all. No one was breaking that stigma. And so, it's sad to say, and I love my high school experience and love my teachers and friends and teammates, but it just wasn't talked about back then. So I really leaned on those two guys, and that's really all I had. I didn't talk to family, didn't talk to a counselor or a therapist. It was just those two guys, Ryan and Pat, that really helped me through that moment of those 3 to 4 months where it was really, really brutal. And then obviously, like, high school moves fast. People forget about things. And so like by sophomore year, it was past me from something I had to deal with every day. But that feeling internally, I, still carried with me to this day of that embarrassment and that trauma moment that still hurts me sometimes too.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's say there's a teen out there and they're listening to this and they have found themselves in a similar situation, or they have a friend who is in a similar situation. What is, from pulling from your own experience, obviously, what is the best piece of advice that you could give them to get through that situation?
Feelings are temporary. Nothing is the end of the world. It might feel like it in that moment, but I promise it's not. It's one of the saddest things that I've learned since working in the mental health space, learning from doctors and psychiatrists and suicide prevention professionals. But the story that I told is one of the most common reasons a young person takes their own life, because they think
Mm-hmm.
in that it's a very instantaneous thing where 2 to 3 hours later, unfortunately, they're no longer here because they think it is the end of the world and they can't get help and they can't talk to anyone. And so if
Yeah.
there is anyone listening that's gone through that, like, I promise you can reach out to help and talk to your friends or talk to your counselor at school about it, and they will help you. It's nothing to be embarrassed of. Like, we all go through this stuff. There shouldn't be shame. Some people might say something about you or might make fun of you, but like, the people that truly love and care about you will help you through those moments, and it's not the end of the world. So just knowing that you're going to be better for reaching out. Don't waste 15 years of your life not saying anything like I did. It really
Mm-hmm.
does help. You can't do it alone.
Mm-hmm. And Brandon, suffering in silence for those 15 years with pushing it down and just trying to work through it on your own, what were the residual effects of that silence on your mental health?
I mean, I would say I wasn't happy genuinely. Seriously, I wasn't genuinely happy until about a year and a half ago, ever in my
Wow.
life. And
Wow.
so, it took a toll on me for sure. It affected, you know, trust that I had with people, relationships. It, definitely fueled into my alcoholism and why I buried myself in, alcohol for a long, long time and other things. And I was, addiction and mental health really do go hand in hand, and you turn to
Mm-hmm.
something to numb the pain, and it
Mm-hmm.
might help it for, a couple drinks, but
Mm-hmm.
long term, it does a lot of damage to you long term. And so that's something that I battled from college on to, a year and a half ago when I quit drinking. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I never talked to anyone about how I was feeling, maybe a girlfriend here and there or my best friend, but it was never my parents or a therapist. I didn't go to
Mm-hmm.
therapy until 2020. It was the first time that I had ever done it. And like, it helped change my life, but I wasn't even being totally open and honest with my therapist until I hit rock bottom 2 years later, and I didn't want to live anymore. And so, yeah, it definitely took a toll on me for a long, long time. And I'm thankful that I finally reached out, but I wish I would have way sooner.
Yeah. All those years. That's rough, man. So when you talk about the alcohol, and I'm sure there are other things probably involved, but it's almost like a coping skill, but it's a negative coping skill. It's a way to cope. It's a way to push down the pain. It's a way to numb, right?
Yep.
So you've come a long way being able to break that addiction and get sober and all those types. That's just wonderful. But talk about coping skills, like healthy coping skills that teens can employ.
Sure. Well, I want to say both unhealthy and healthy, because like, you have to identify the unhealthy ones, the ones that don't help you. Alcohol or
Yeah.
any type of substance can be one of those, because like we said, it's numbing the pain. It's not helping you. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's unhealthy. Healthy ones for me that I love are just listening to like my favorite artists and taking a walk or
Mm-hmm.
going to a workout class like Orange Theory or shooting hoops, or, I live in Los Angeles now. So being able to, go hike in the mountains and listen to music, or just, LA's got a lot of traffic, but it's
Yeah.
still can be peaceful in your car, like just jamming out the songs. And the reasons why, your favorite artists write those songs, because they went through the same things as you. And that's why you relate to them and they help you when you're at rock bottom
Yeah.
or when you're sad. And so I like to say that, but, that can be anything. Obviously, talking to family and friends, talking to a therapist, reaching out for help, like, but it can be simple things too, like playing basketball or drawing or journaling, things that you love to do. That can be your coping mechanisms. Obviously, I'm such a proponent and fan of therapy and mental health tips, but it can be just whatever makes you feel at home, that makes you feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable when you're in that moment. It can help you. Breathing exercises, meditation.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it really is just getting some sunshine, listening to music, and doing something physical activity that really helps me get out of, tough spots that I'm in.
Sure. Wait, we talk a lot about and have lessons in our curriculum about sleep hygiene, the importance of getting enough rest because your brain has to process all these
Yeah.
things that have gone on throughout the day. It's like cleans out when you're sleeping. So I think sometimes, teens are programmed. They don't want to miss out on anything. So they don't get enough sleep. And so they suffer in that way. And then looking at maybe, proper nutrition too and hydration. 1% dehydration can affect how your brain's functioning. So all these things, mind body connection is so important. There's such a correlation between how you're treating your body and how your brain is functioning and how you feel. So I think talking about those things is really important too.
I agree. Well, and the sleeping thing is huge. Like, I work long hours and late nights sometimes. I got to get up
Mm-hmm.
really early the next day. And, you know, you have to make time for yourself too. Earlier this week, I recorded some episodes and had some long edits and meetings and emails. And I was just dragging really bad. And I said, all right, I'm going to turn everything off at 7 o'clock and I'm going to just watch a movie in bed and fall asleep by 10. And I was reset, but like, you have to take that time for yourself. You can't, it's okay to push through sometimes. And obviously like, work
Sure.
hard, but if you're not yourself and you're really tired and you're struggling, like, you have to take time for you to reset and take care of your mental health.
Yeah. You think about academics too, when a lot of the people that are going to be listening to this are in school and, they're out for the summer probably, but they're trying to do academics, have friendships, navigate social media. If they're involved in any kind of extracurricular activities, they're a sibling, a family member, and they're trying to balance all these things with a growing brain. Like it's just such a time where they need to really consider how important those components are of their overall well-being for their future. So I'm so glad that you were talking about that and kind of sharing your experience. And I know that you've had quite a few athletes on too, and we have an athlete sector where we have a couple of athletes that go out and talk to schools and things like that. And there's so much pressure on athletes
Yeah.
to, perform at such a high level from very young ages. The expectations are just incredibly high. From your experience of working so closely with athletes, what are some of the ways that you're hearing they're protecting their mental health?
Well, one that just, gets to the top of my mind is social media because, I'm friends with NFL players and I'll they've shown me or talked to me about, like, they'll drop a catch at the end of the game and they'll literally have 20,000 people online telling them how bad they are and
Wow.
how they lost the team the game. And it's like that balance of social media, like knowing that those people that are talking crap about you online, they don't know you, they don't care about you, they don't see the work that you put in. Like, who cares what
Mm-hmm.
they have to say? Like, it doesn't matter their opinion of you. You know who you are. But the way that the stigma has broken in sports, where, when I first started working in the NFL and college sports almost 10 years ago now, I didn't talk about mental health at all. The players never did in the locker room. I had no idea if an NFL team or a college athletic department had a psychiatrist or a mental health coach. Now I know every locker room I go into, they have one, and the team utilizes it, and the guys are talking about mental health. I mean, I wasn't on the team, but I reported with the Bengals every day for 5 years. And, when I took my time off and I put a letter on social media talking about my mental health, I had the head coach of the Bengals, I had star players reaching out to me. And I think if that happened 5 years earlier, it wouldn't have been like that. And it's not because they don't love
Mm-hmm.
and care about me and we aren't friends and coworkers, but it's just the stigma around sports. So it's completely changed, where I think you're getting athletes, specifically men and black men, talking about mental health,
Mm-hmm.
more than ever before. I've been lucky to have, really powerful guys like Nate Burleson on, who hosts CBS Mornings with Gail King, played in the NFL for 10 plus years, talk about the importance of telling men and athletes, I'm proud of you, I love you, having the conversation, saying, how are you? And like really meaning it. But like, no, you haven't been yourself. What's up? What's going on? It has been really important and really cool to see the change in athletes' mental health, because I mean, it has completely changed the game in the last, I'd say, 5 years, really.
You talked earlier about music and how that's like a coping thing mechanism for you, is being able to turn on some music and go for a hike, and it really is soothing, and I find that too in my own life. And how do you think that the arts overall, because we talk about athletes, but what about those kids who are in band, the kids that are in drama, the kids that are wonderful artists? How can they use this talent or this love or passion of the arts to help maintain and build healthy coping skills and mental health?
Well, I can speak to it because I was a kid that played every sport, but I also was on a dance team. I did theater. I loved everything. And so I think what's been really cool is that in the last, definitely since I was in high school, people might make fun of you for being on a dance team or doing, something that's not sports, whether it's band or art. Like, no, like it's cool now. Like, and it should have always been cool. And so what's really great about it's just the same as sports. Like you can feel at home playing basketball or playing football. You can do the same thing while you're on the stage or you're making music or you're dancing or journaling or drawing. Like it has the same effect. We talk about healthy coping mechanisms. Like your passion, what you love to do is a healthy coping mechanism. And so for me, I think it's really, really cool to see how many kids are like embracing that. And also like the communities, the schools are supporting them, just chasing whatever they want to chase and realizing that it is healthy for them and it can make them happy.
Yeah, that's true. When my son was about to go into middle school years ago, I was talking to a mom and I was like, gosh, I'm kind of nervous about this situation, him going in. And, you hear terrible things about middle school, like it's just going to be chaos. And she said, it's fine. Just make sure that he's involved in something. If it's
Yep.
sports, if it's music, if it's art, if it's a chess club, if it's something to avoid isolation and to give him a way to connect with other people that have a similar interest, that they can bond, and form friendships. And he found the drums, and the band instructor gave him an opportunity to try out on an acoustic set, and he nailed it. Had never played before in his life and just nailed it. And he's played ever since. And, was really involved in band in high school and different parts of it. And I think that a big part of being happy in school and doing well academically was because he had that involvement. So I would encourage our listeners, if you find yourself isolated, try to go to club fairs and see if there's some sort of club in your high school or your community that you can join to get that involvement and that closeness. Get involved in music, the arts. If sports aren't your thing, there are lots of other things that you can do that are cool and fun.
And there's
So,
mental health clubs now too in schools that weren't around when we were in high school or middle school. So like get involved in that too. And you might meet friends that do play sports or are in shows and have completely different, interests than you. But you realize when you talk to them about something that we all struggle with, like mental health, or help each other through moments, you might meet new friends that you never thought you'd have or could relate to.
yeah, man, that's great advice. That is great advice. And, you just have gone through a huge transition and moving out to LA. And I was thinking about this, transitions can be really tough for teens and even teens going into college. It's if you're transitioning from middle school to high school or high school to college or from college to military, college to career. Transitions can be those pressure points in our lives that can trigger mental issues, anxiety particularly. How have you coped with your big transition of moving out to LA? What have you done to help protect your mental health?
Uh, the drive out here was but like one of my favorite like things is listening to music and driving. So that coping mechanism over a week was I used it a lot, but it was healthy. It was good. But like change is the biggest thing I've always struggled with, and I learned that through therapy and through self reflection, whether it be job change or changes in my life with relationships. now like moving somewhere new where it's the best moment of my life, but it's still a lot of change. I'm in a different time zone. It's more expensive. There's different things that are going on in my life that have never happened before, but just embracing the change and trying to look at it with a positive point of view is important, but also like validating or knowing that you are going through something different and the change is happening. I had Kirk Herbstreit on my show about a month ago. He's a former Ohio State quarterback, one of the biggest personalities in sports. He hosts College Game Day on ESPN. And he mentioned how he battled through a lot of stuff as a kid that no one knew. He went to like 7 different schools in 7 years. His parents got divorced, both got remarried multiple times. And so there was change between schools, parents, families. And he really did lean on like having that football practice to look forward to, or baseball at the end of the day, and getting that 2 hours with his friends or his coaches really saved him before he got to college. And he was having a really hard time adjusting there. And this was back in 1992. And he first went to a sports psychiatrist in college. He ended up going to therapy the next 3 years every week because he saw that it helped him so much. And so change can be really, really difficult to deal with. For me, it's definitely the thing that I struggle with the most. But what I've learned is I have these tools and resources and knowledge now about mental health and how to take care of yourself. And you can take that 10 minutes. You can take that, hour. If it has to be a day to like kind of let stuff out and just relax, that's okay. But knowing that you can bounce back and the change isn't bad, it's good. It's just something you got to get used to. So I'm definitely still adjusting a little bit, but I'm really excited about what I'm going to get to do out here and what I'm already doing. It's really cool.
We're excited for you and to keep hearing about your journey. I think that's so exciting. You're building resilience too. So that resilience piece through facing hard things, that's not an easy move. You've gone from a decent sized city to an enormous city. Everything is very new, even though you spent some time out there. It's your home now. So you're building that resilience through facing challenges and new things. What are you, okay, we're hearing a lot about self-talk in the building of resilience. So that self-talk, that inner dialogue that we have, we're learning through research is critical to helping us get through tough times. How has self-talk been maybe not such a great thing, and how are you using it now to get through and persevere?
It's been like really helpful for me just because I'm not someone that I think talks negative to myself a ton, but you get mad or upset with the situation, or if an interview gets canceled or an episode doesn't do as well as you hope it would on podcast platforms or YouTube, like I take this stuff to heart because it's my life now. It's my passion. It's my job. And so sometimes you do have moments of doubt, or you think, should I really be doing this, or is it worth it? But then you have those small victories. And so just trying to remember the positive. And like one thing that helps me a lot is I think the medication I take for my antidepressant, like I try to say life can be a roller coaster and it kind of keeps you balanced. At least mine does. The answer is different for everyone. But I think that really helps me, but also just having that stability of having my own, business and purpose, sobriety, the tools with mental health. I think it's just kind of the perfect storm to help myself through that. But like I keep going back to it. The feelings are temporary is such a true thing that can really help anyone in situations, knowing that whatever you're going through isn't going to last forever. So the positive affirmations, whether they're coming from your friends, family, yourself, like you have to have those.
Having those positive affirmations to like you're saying, to keep telling yourself, okay, this might feel uncomfortable. This is temporary. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to come out on the other side. And, I'm going to keep growing my business, and I'm going to keep moving towards my goals, which I wanted to ask you really quickly. Do you set goals for yourself, and do you have objectives to meet those goals along the way, or do you just kind of wing it?
I think I kind of wing it. I mean, like I definitely have stuff that I have goals to get. Like I always wanted to move to LA with this show, but I never thought it would be like possible or happen. And so to be in LA, like that's a goal that I checked off. being able to get certain guests on the show. I have goals for that, or growing it, or being able to speak to so many people. But yeah, I do wing it. I don't know if it's type A or type B. Like, for example, all my files are in downloads in one folder on my computer. So like, not all of them. Like, I have the podcast stuff organized, but all my personal stuff's in one folder. And so I'm not the most calculated person. I'm learning how to use spreadsheets and to do calendars and things like that. But for me, just kind of setting the overall goals and the big picture, and then I chip away at the smaller items throughout the day and throughout the week. I think that helps me get closer to it. So yeah, I set goals for myself, but I try to give myself that flexibility of, like, I have these 3 things I want to get done today. But if I don't get to the last one, it's not the end of the world. Like, you can do it first thing tomorrow morning and still be on pace to finish what you want to. Or guess what? Sometimes life happens and things come up and you have to adjust on the fly. And so having that flexibility with yourself and knowing that it's not the end of the world is really big, I think.
I think that is so important to celebrate the little wins along the way. And like you were saying, give yourself grace if you can't complete everything you set out to do that day. It is not a failure. I'll handle it tomorrow. Look what I got finished today, and celebrate along the way. Because I think for young people too, they need to recognize little wins every single day to build self-esteem, self-worth, and to exercise self-compassion, that we're not going to have a major win every day, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't a good day or it wasn't successful.
Right. I mean, people see on the show how many celebrities or athletes I have on, but you don't see the 97 no's out of every 100 emails I send out. And so those can drag you down, getting rejection, whether it's trying out for a play or getting cut from a team, or, your friend group not treating you like they should. Like, just knowing that it's not the end of the world and that you got to give yourself some grace, and it's okay to feel a certain way for a little bit. It's okay to feel like you should feel those emotions, but not letting it control you. Like, you can only control what you can control and try to move forward the best you can. But yeah, I think that's super important for sure.
There's a good lesson in that, Brandon, where if we can give those big feelings space to be felt, and to have some mindful practices to question, where did that feeling come from? How can I work through it? Who do I have that can support me if I need advice? Those are all things that teens hopefully can work on and think through. And it's such a big part of navigating through just everything is this whole like social media piece and screen time piece. And, you were greatly affected by something being shared over the internet, basically. And, there's a lot of people out there. So when we think about teens and having face-to-face interactions to not feel isolated, what advice do you have for teenagers and tweens, basically, who feel so much FOMO that if they're not on their phone all the time, they are totally missing out on life? Like, how do you help them? What do you say?
Well, look, I love having the phone, and I'm on it as much as someone can possibly be with my work and pleasure and everything. But I would tell them, like, it's funny looking back now. Like, I remember all we had was a home phone, and I would ride my bike down the street, be at my friend's house. When I had to come home, my mom would call their mom, and I'd have to go home, and there was no texting. There was no social media. It's a way different time, and I love having the social media and the tools and to be able to connect and feel love. But also, like you said, the FOMO, the feeling of missing out. It's okay to take a day if you want to and not go do something. It's okay to put the phone down and just enjoy the moment you're in. That's what I try to do, even if I don't have my phone off, having it in do not disturb so I can just listen to music or take a walk in the park. Just know that, like, especially if you're getting bullied on social media or you don't like what you see, like, you can control that. You can turn it off. And what's happening, is not everything's true on the internet. So it doesn't matter what people say about you, just knowing that you know yourself best and and giving yourself, we keep saying it, but space and grace and time to heal. Like, yeah, I mean, try to take as much time off your phone as you can. It's something that I struggle with, definitely, with the work that I do, but I do try to do it because I can see how much it helps me to just be living and not scrolling. What is resilience and why do teens need it? I think everyone needs it, especially teens, because at that age, and I have experienced myself struggling for the first time when I was 14, getting bullied on social media. You have to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You also have to have people around you that are going to love, care, and help you. And so you don't have to do it alone. You can lean on other people and you can have that resilience and be independent. But look, it takes a team. It takes a village. You got to be able to count on people, whether it's a trusted adult, mom, dad, a friend, a classmate, teammate, your counselor at school, because we can't do it alone. So you have to have that resilience and know that it's not the end of the world. Feelings are temporary. Yes, it can hurt. You can have those moments to let those emotions out. But at the end of the day, nothing lasts forever. And so having that resiliency to get through moments is such a big key to taking care of your mental health. If a teen is struggling, who and how should they ask for help? I say two things about mental health. Number one, do something. Number two, feelings are temporary. Those are the two things that I go to that have helped me the most. Number one being do something. You can ask for help. It can be a friend, a coach, mom, dad, someone that loves and cares about you. And no matter what, if they truly love and care about you, they will help you. They might not understand at first. They might not know how to help at first, but if they do love and care about you, they will help you. And so going to someone that you can trust, and if you don't feel like you have that person, it's okay to ask for help from someone at school, whether it's a counselor, a social worker. You can ask a coach at practice, like, hey, I'm not real comfortable talking to mom and dad about this, or my friends, aren't open about it. Like, what, have you ever experienced this? And knowing that you can go to people for help is really, really key, because again, we can't do it alone. So just knowing that you have to do something, you can't hold it in, because when we bottle it up, it makes it a million times worse. So we have to ask for help. And I think the people that are closest to you sometimes, they can help you the best, but also they might give you an answer that you want to hear, not what you need to hear. So sometimes it is better to go to a school counselor, or if you're already in therapy, go to your therapist, and they give you an unbiased point of view. And their number one goal is just to try to help, you find that true happiness inside you. Okay, you condensed it. That's much better. All right. What are 3 challenges that can help you? Or wait. What are 3
strategies
to help you? Okay, I got it. All right. So what are 3 strategies that can help you if you're facing challenges or adversity? I think, number one is just doing something about it. Like whether it's calling a friend or taking a walk and getting those emotions out, or, finding a healthy coping mechanism, drawing, journaling, working out. You just have to do something right away. I think it kind of compares to that. But number 2 would be, like, you can't do it alone. You have to talk to somebody, find somebody that you can trust to have that conversation with, because look, we all go through the same things, whether you think we do or not. And so reaching out to somebody else will help you get through that moment. And I think, number 3 would probably be, giving yourself the time to be sad and feel things. That's okay. But also, like, knowing that you have to bounce back and it's not going to last forever. So, like, you can get those emotions out, but the important part of that step 3 is moving in the right direction and doing those first couple of things I talked about, whether it's healthy coping mechanisms, reaching out for help. But it's important for us to get those feelings out for sure.
Awesome. That's great advice for sure. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for being on Stand for Kind Talks with us today. Your insight has just been awesome. And I know that there's going to be a lot of teens out there who are going to be able to take your advice to heart and maybe ask for support if they needed it, or be more equipped to help a friend who is in need.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was incredible. I love this conversation. And for me, like we talked about, it started when I was 14 years old. So I hope something we said could help somebody out there. That's exactly why both of us do this work and want to talk about it. So thank you so much.